Rumors began to spread that the Akorch Guild had accepted the assassination request targeting Dimitry, only to be eliminated themselves. Thanks to this rumor, assassination requests in the northeastern region dropped significantly, especially those related to Dimitry. No one dared to take them up. With the downfall of just one person, a clear message was sent that instilled fear in the hearts of many. The scene then shifts to Dimitry territory, where Kevin reflects on the fact that once again, his lord, Roman, ventured alone into the Akorch headquarters. Kevin wonders if simply watching Roman face danger is all he can do. Many have remarked that Kevin and other Dimitry soldiers are growing at an abnormally fast pace, but even so, this alone is not enough for them to follow the path Roman is walking toward the future. For Kevin and the other Dimitry soldiers to contend with Kronos, which controls the continent, they must become even stronger than they are now. At that moment, Kevin overhears Felix and Chris talking. Felix informs him that they have successfully developed a magic circle capable of increasing the mana density in a designated area. It's not perfect yet, but Felix should be able to reduce the margin of error within 6 months and resolve those issues. This magic circle doesn't just increase the power of magic. It could also be used to train Oranites, at least in theory. Later, Kevin goes to see Felix with the others. Felix warns Kevin that it's too reckless, as he has repeatedly stated that the technique is still unstable. Kevin responds by saying that what matters most to him and the other knights is to be of some help to their lord in the near future. The enemy they will eventually face is an empire that has reigned as one of the strongest forces for centuries. Hearing this, Felix agrees, but reminds them that safety is of utmost importance. He cautions that if anyone gets injured before they have a chance to do anything for Lord Roman, Felix would feel ashamed to face him. Everyone feels encouraged by Felix's words. The scene then shifts to 15 days later in the mines, where the workers are laboring. Suddenly, one of the workers warns everyone to step back as the passage begins to collapse. At that moment, the artifact, Air Shield, activates, blocking the collapse and saving the workers. As the dust settles, one worker discovers something and calls for Morkan. Morkan is shocked to see a massive underground passageway and wonders who could have built it. He immediately instructs the workers to fetch Felix. Moments later, Felix arrives and inspects the steel gate. He notes that the entire gate is infused with magical energy, warning that if anyone had tried to force it open, it would have triggered an explosion. Felix decides to cast interpretation magic first. As he casts his spell, the door unlocks. However, as it opens, a barrage of arrows is unleashed. Startled, Felix steps back, but Roman calmly blocks the arrows with his aura. Seeing this, Felix comments that it appears to be a dungeon behind the door, rigged with traps. Roman then tells Felix that he will go ahead and investigate. Shocked, Felix protests, saying it's too dangerous since they don't know what other traps might lie ahead. He urges Roman to give him some time, so he can try to figure out the traps within the dungeon. Roman informs Felix that if someone is living inside this dungeon, they would have already noticed their presence, and the longer Roman delays, the more dangerous the situation will become. As he steps forward, he instructs Felix to stay behind. Entering the dungeon, Roman recalls that the traps of the Jagal clan were similar to these. At that moment, more arrows are launched toward him, but Roman skillfully blocks them using his aura techniques. Suddenly, a voice from the dark side of the dungeon commands Roman to stop, warning that this is their territory and if he comes any closer, they will have no choice but to take him down. In response, Roman calmly raises his sword and declares, "I am Roman Dimitry of the Dimitry household, and the endless mountain range belongs to us. It is you who must reveal your identities." One of the figures from the dungeon dismisses Roman's words as nonsense, but Roman remains firm, stating that he has come to negotiate. He asserts that the endless mountain range lies within the territory of Cairo, over which the Dimitry household has inherited authority. Roman warns that if they maintain their current attitude, he will consider them his enemies. At that moment, the leader of the dungeon dwellers steps forward and tells Roman not to impose human laws on them. Roman is surprised to see that the leader is a dwarf. The dwarf explains that they have established their roots in the underground for ages. Roman notices the dwarf trembling and realizes that another race exists within the endless mountain range. He wonders how he should approach this situation. Roman then tells the dwarf that while this may be their land, what he needs is assurance that they will not pose a threat to Dimitri's territory. As the dwarf leader steps forward to respond, he is suddenly shocked by the sight of Roman's sword. He asks if he may examine it. Confused, Roman listens as the dwarf leader politely requests to hold the sword for just 3 minutes. In exchange, the dwarf promises to consider a compromise between their people and Roman. As Roman hands his sword to the dwarves, they are astonished that such a weapon exists in this world. The strength of the blade and the precision of its design are flawless. The dwarves are excited, believing that the sword must have been crafted by dwarves from elsewhere, as it embodies the essence of nature. Eagerly, the dwarf leader asks Roman who made the sword. Roman replies that he crafted it himself. The dwarves are shocked by this revelation. The dwarf leader then reads the sword's memory, confirming that Roman is both the owner and the creator. After witnessing this, the dwarf leader expresses hope, stating that if Roman is capable of such craftsmanship, he might be able to help the dwarves. The leader bows and pleads with Roman to help them reclaim their land. Confused, Roman asks what he means by reclaiming their land. The dwarf leader explains that, before anything else, Roman needs to understand why the dwarves live in this dungeon. The Endless Mountain Range, as it is known, is a name given by humans. These mountains do have an end, the dwarf leader continued, and it's called Arcadia, a harmonious world where various races once lived together. The dwarves originated from there. Long ago, before humans made great advancements, a mysterious cold wave swept across the mountains, freezing the land. Even Yggdrasil, the world tree, the foundation of this world, withered, signaling the beginning of a catastrophic disaster. Many races in Arcadia perished, succumbing to the cold and hunger. The ancestors of the dwarves, in a desperate bid to survive, were forced to leave that place. Growing impatient, Roman asked the dwarf to get to the point. The dwarf leader explained that the dwarves eventually settled in the Endless Mountain Range, and several decades ago, they discovered a fire demon deep underground. He warned that this force could potentially burn the entire world, but if harnessed properly, it might be the only hope to thaw the frozen world tree. The dwarf leader then revealed that when reading the sword's memory, he saw that Roman could control fire freely. He suggested that their meeting might be the will of the gods, and earnestly asked Roman to bring the fire demon to them. The dwarf leader promised that if Roman fulfilled their request, then, in the name of the sacred brown rock that guides the dwarves, they would grant any of Roman's wishes. Roman pondered to himself, realizing he had been meeting people reminiscent of those from his previous life. Could all of this really just be a coincidence? The Dimitry family, known for its blacksmithing heritage, and the endless mountain range behind their territory were strikingly similar to the 10,000 mountains of the Heavenly Demon. Though Roman had chosen a different path in this life, the experiences from his previous one had proven invaluable. Determined to uncover what had led him to this moment, Roman agreed to the dwarf's request. The dwarf leader was elated and led him to the location where the fire demon resided. Upon reaching a cliff, the dwarf leader stopped and informed Roman that beyond this point, the dwarves could not proceed. The fire demon was far too dangerous. He urged Roman to be cautious. Roman, however, reassured them not to worry. As he stepped forward, he reflected on the questions that had brought him to this place. Roman lived for his beliefs and followed them without hesitation. Roman sees the flame demon, which to him resembles a small sun. As he moves closer, his clothes begin to burn away. Roman acknowledges the danger, realizing that the heat far exceeds the limits of his immunity to extreme temperatures. He understands that in order to confront the flame demon, he must accept it. Roman then uses his flame mastery technique to gather the demon's flames. As he reaches out to seize the flame demon, he reflects that if the path he walks and the purpose of his destiny are aligned, it is not the result of fate, but a life shaped by his own choices. The flame demon speaks to Roman, urging him to accept it, claiming that Roman is blessed by fire and that their destinies are bound together in a powerful bond. True to his nature, Roman responds that he doesn't care about the demon's identity, and if the flame demon wishes to stay with him, it must follow Roman's will. The flame demon agrees, acknowledging that it is a fitting answer. Roman then emerges from the cliff, having successfully acquired the flame demon. The dwarf leader is utterly shocked to see that Roman has succeeded. Roman hands the flame demon to the dwarf leader, who, in that moment, reflects on the warnings passed down by the ancestors about the greed of humans. However, the dwarf realizes that Roman is different. As he takes the flame demon, the dwarf leader pledges that the dwarf tribe will swear allegiance to Roman Dimitry from this day forward. Hearing this, Roman smiles and assures him that Dimitry will never despise the dwarves. Meanwhile, Roman privately notes that a portion of the flame demon's fire has fused with his dantian, and he begins to contemplate how he will harness its power in the future. The scene shifts to the Redford Ministry of Finance, where a worker informs Count Rondon that the Golden Bank has issued a final warning. If the debt is not paid within 2 weeks, a debt collector will be called. The worker adds that if the situation persists, Redford will face bankruptcy. Count Rondon asks if there is any room for negotiation. The worker replies that the Golden Bank has stated there will be no further chances. Count Rondon grows worried upon hearing this. Over the past few years, he has fought hard to save the country, but many issues remain unresolved. He then inquires about the king's stance on the matter. The worker responds that it is a shame, as the king is no longer the same ruler he once was. Someone must have deliberately caused His Majesty to fall to such a low state, and as long as that person remains, the problem will persist. Count Rondon contemplates his next steps, aware that he is blamed for the current troubles. Unlike his respected father, Count Rondon's reputation among the people is quite poor. Count Rondon instructs the worker to compile a list of factions that could potentially assist them, prioritizing the urgent need to address the debt owed to the Golden Bank. Count Rondon had already attended 10 meetings, facing 10 rejections. Initially, he approached individuals with whom he had prior connections, but their disinterest was so apparent that they refused to even meet with him. The scene then shifts to Dimitry territory, where Count Rondon reflects on his situation. He never imagined he would be seeking aid from a recently established territory, yet now he has no choice but to pursue any viable source of support. Meanwhile, at Roman's training grounds, Han informs him that a guest has been waiting for several days to meet him. As Roman steps out of his training room, he remarks to Han that he was about to head out anyway. Observing Roman, Han thinks to himself that Roman appears different than before. Han then asks how Roman's training is progressing. Roman responds that, thanks to Han's efforts, he was able to focus entirely on his regiment. Finally, Roman inquires who has requested to meet with him. The scene shifts to Roman's office, where Count Rondon introduces himself. In Roman's mind, he recalls seeing Count Rondon's name on the Akorch kill list as one of Kronos' main targets. Count Rondon apologizes for making this request during their first meeting, but he asks if Roman could lend him 100,000 gold. He explains that if Redford cannot repay its debt to the Golden Bank, it will face bankruptcy. Count Rondon emphasizes the critical importance of Redford to the world. Roman smiles to himself, noting that Count Rondon skillfully shifted the discussion to the strategic value of his territory, which Roman finds very clever. Count Rondon continues, stating that if Redford falls, the Kingdom Alliance will lose a key strategic pillar against the Kronos Empire. He urges Roman's assistance, pointing out that without support from other countries, Redford will not survive long. Roman responds by mentioning that he has heard rumors about Count Rondon, the wealthy individual from Redford known for amassing riches through ruthless business practices and being labeled as a scoundrel or cold-hearted by many. Count Rondon, however, appears very different from the rumors that Roman has heard. Roman asks Count Rondon to explain his situation and the reasons behind his intense efforts for Redford. Count Rondon reveals that he is under surveillance and cannot be seen as a man of patriotism and wealth like his father. To avoid this, he has deliberately tarnished his reputation. The wealth he seized and destroyed came from individuals involved with traitors. Count Rondon expresses his desire to end the suffering of his country and its people, believing that the Kronos Empire is behind these troubles. To secure this agreement, Count Rondon pledges the Rondon territory and the family's heirloom in exchange for Redford's restoration to its former glory. He assures that both the Rondon family and the Redford Kingdom will forever remember this favor. Roman agrees to the proposal, which surprises Count Rondon. Roman further states that, like Cairo, Redford must survive by any means necessary, and that opportunities will arise for Count Rondon. Count Rondon is taken aback by this response. Count Rondon reflects on a memory of his father, advising him never to give up, as opportunities will present themselves in due time. Returning to the present, Count Rondon assures Roman that he will certainly repay the kindness shown by the Dimitry family. The scene then shifts outside, where rumors are circulating about an upcoming festival to honor the souls of the Valhalla warriors. It is said that Barbassa of the 12 Swords has chosen Roman Dimitry as his opponent. This is notable as it is the first time a challenger of such high rank is not from the empire. However, rumors also suggest that Roman Dimitry has declined the invitation, leading people to speculate that he must be intimidated. It makes sense, given that Butler, Nicholas, and Gustavo, who are continent-level challengers, are clearly ranked lower. Even if they attack together, Barbassa would not lose. The scene shifts back to Roman's office, where he is reading a letter. Smiling, Roman thinks that with Valhalla becoming more overt, the Dimitry family must also respond appropriately. The scene shifts to later in Roman's office, where Kevin asks why he was excluded from the Valhalla expedition. Roman explains that the dangers of this mission are not limited to him alone. Without Roman present, Dimitry territory would become extremely vulnerable. Therefore, the person Roman trusts the most must remain here, and he has determined that Kevin is the most suitable for this responsibility. Kevin is pleased to hear this and in his mind, feels that Roman's trust in him surpasses that in Chris. Excited, Kevin thanks Roman and assures him that he will do everything in his power to protect the Dimitry territory while Roman is away. Roman, observing Kevin's enthusiasm, advises him to calm down. He then turns away and reflects that, from now on, Dimitry must win this seemingly impossible battle. To demonstrate that the Empire is not unbeatable, Roman realizes that he must go to Valhalla.